you see in this text by Adam Smith, which, by the way, is from his most well-known work during the 18th century. The book is called The Theory of Moral Sentiments, Théorie des sentiments moraux, because it was translated very early into French. And actually, when Adam Smith came to Versailles as the guide of the Duke of Buccleuch on the grand tour, he was making a grand tour with the Duke of Buccleuch, he met the physiocrats and lots of learned people in Versailles, and those people knew Adam Smith because he'd written the book Théorie des sentiments moraux. Now, Adam Smith is not, of course, today quoted mostly for the Théorie des sentiments moraux, but what we know of Adam Smith is basically the Wealth of Nations. But if you look at the Wealth of Nations, and I think that's why I prefer to start this way, because if you look at both books, I would claim, and not only me, but people studying the history of economics and the history of economic thought would claim that the theory of moral sentiments is in a way a blueprint to the ideas of value later on formulated, articulated, and sort of put in a very concrete European, of course, context in the Wealth of Nations. What is Adam Smith interested in? And how come he actually, in these quotes, alludes to aesthetics, beauty, in the context of, as you heard, acceptance, propaganda, you say, some of you, for new organizations, new institutions in a society. What was he interested in? Well, Adam Smith declares in the beginning of the theory of moral sentiments that he wants to make a Newton trick. He wants to become the Newton of social science. And this meaning, he wants to show and explain how human communities are formed on the surface of the earth, not how planets are organized and kept together and in the universe. So he wants to transpose, that is his ambition, explicit, he wants to transpose the Newtonian approach to the study of social affairs, you can say, or interhuman action. Now, his problem is to find out why do humans cling together in societies, in organizations. And in order to try to discover that, he finds himself having discarded absolute and fundamental kind of explanations, like it's the want of a God, the kind of absolute rule or something like that, that would sort of guide these communities. He discards that and embarks on something that later on will be twisted into what usually is called methodological individualism, very much twisted, I would say. The basic idea is that we cling together because we are attracted by each other's actions. Mm-hmm. So the whole problem of living a life which is not an isolated life, but a social life, is to find out what kind of actions exert an attraction on my fellow man. And doing that, one might suspect that he ends up in a catalogue of actions which are nice and beautiful. But this he discards as well, saying that you can never really rely on the reactions to the actions you undertake. You shouldn't forget that Adam Smith's world is not a world you can describe in form of a chess play. Actually, he criticizes the physiocrats at that time active in Versailles as consultants, management consultants to the French king, you could say. He attacks the French physiocrats for actually looking upon society as something which is predictable, which follows specific rules and so on. No. To Adam Smith, the world is a theater. We could even say it's a Vanity Fair. When you do something, people will react to it. They may pretend that you are attracted, but actually they may pull your leg. They may just fool you. And you should always be prepared that people might fool you and do things which are in their interest, approach you, and so on. So, to make a long story short, you're never really sure what is an attractive action. And Adam Smith goes on and says it is impossible. And now you will see that I will sort of slant this kind of little lecture in the form that I'm used to, which is a management theory lecture. You cannot prescribe behavior which would be sure and sort of secure a good society. You can only say, and that he is very explicit about, you can only say that young people, when we are born, when we are educated, when we live our lives, when we sort of exist together, this has to be in action all the time. You have to become not an isolated person, but you have to become polished by social interaction. Like a stone is polished on the beach by the sand and the water and so on. So you become poli, and poli in the sense that you are rubbed all the time socially with people, and you understand why people react, why sometimes they find it difficult to understand what you're doing. You communicate, and what you do, and there he is also explicit in his text from 1756, I think, explicit saying that what you do is that you have to find a kind of attractive beauty and aesthetics in order to build an ethics society. Okay. This you can say, if you want, and this is very popular today, to speak about aesthetics and art and value making and market value and use value and whatever theories you are into, if it's Adam Smith or Karl Marx or something like that. What he tries to tell us, or sort of the blueprint, the idea he has in his 1756 thing, that I would say comes back in the Wealth of Nations, but is forgotten by today's economists. Few of them are well read enough to sort of have looked at the theory of moral sentiments. What he says is that this kind of glue that puts us together, that hold together a society, has a very important aesthetic aspect. It's fun to read old books, because you're especially fun when you sort of recognize things, and you thought of that already at that time. And he takes not only human action, and I would say rather action than behavior, and talks about the attractiveness of human action. He takes also, of course, human products. He takes things like the carrosse, the big carriage, the beautiful carriage, you know, in gold, whatever it is, or if it's a big limousine, or if it's a Ferrari, or whatever it is. And why do you get a Ferrari? Of course, it is not because it is faster to go with a Ferrari from point A to point B, because there are other cars stopping you, and you're not allowed to use your Ferrari in most of the European countries, by the way. Huh? So you have to break the law, and that, so that usually this cannot be the point. The point is that you are admired. You are admired, and you feel that you become, in a sense, the object makes you an attractive person and an agreeable person. And in that sense, he develops something which could well and has been used to explain and theorize around design and so on and so forth.